So I'm always sharing horror film recommendations, but I thought maybe today I would do a video that is a little bit more personal and share 10 horror films that have genuinely scared me. This includes films that scared me when I was younger, and it also includes some pretty recent films. I do usually mainly talk about underrated horror films, but today there's kind of going to be a mix. They're probably mostly going to be ones that are more well known, but there is actually a few really underrated ones in here as well. These are all films that I do really love and do rewatch. I find because I have watched so many horror films, not many things do scare me, but there are a few things in these ones that have scared me or does still creep me out. I haven't really gone for the disturbing element in this video. I've kind of gone more for creepy, eerie kind of feeling, or scenes that are just burnt into my memory. So starting off, this is actually one of my favourite films now. It is my favourite film by M. Night, and that is Signs. So Signs came out in 2002 and I was about 7. I did watch it around that time. This film honestly traumatized me for years. So Signs follows a family that live on a farm. One day they wake up to something very strange. There are crop circles in their fields and strange things happening. As the film progresses, they start to realize that they may be under threat. Watching this film back now, some parts definitely haven't aged as well as in the effects, but I do think that the jump scares have aged well and that it does have a really good story. It's not just a horror film for scares, it is so much more than that. Bear in mind, this was actually one of the first horror films I had watched all the way through. The horror comes in slowly, but when it comes in, it really does get to you. There is one scene in particular that is permanently etched into my brain, and that is when they are sitting down watching TV, watching the news, and then all of a sudden there's a jump scare of an alien on the screen. Even now when I rewatch Signs, I do actually look away at that scene because it just brings me back to being a child and seeing that for the first time. That jump scare got me so much. I feel like the moments that are the most creepy and scary are the parts where we don't see the alien too much, because at the end we get the full reveal, and when I first watched that was absolutely terrifying, but nowadays it kind of looks very out of place because of the graphics. I still absolutely love it though, and I still really think that it is worth watching. I do think it has held up, especially because it has such a good story. So if you haven't seen Signs, then please do watch it, because I promise you it's a really good film. Other moments that really creeped me out was one when the alien was on the roof at night. They're kind of looking around and he's just kind of standing up on the roof. That's like so scary. Just imagine being outside at night and then you look around and someone's on the roof. That's in another film as well. I can't maybe It Follows. I can't remember, but that is a big fear. Another moment is when a man locks an alien in a room and then he sticks a knife under the door to see what's kind of in there, and then you see like a flash of what the alien looks like. It has a really satisfying ending as well, which is really nice. The next film on this list did come out quite a few years later, and that is Lights Out. Lights Out is a supernatural paranormal film. It follows a small family and the mother actually has a spirit attached to her. Firstly, this opening scene is actually one of the most terrifying opening scenes I think that I've ever seen. For me personally, I do feel like the paranormal, supernatural, haunting subgenre is definitely a subgenre that I find the most terrifying. So in Lights Out, the spirit that's attached to the mother can only go in the dark. So if you turn the light on, then she can't go there. You're safe in the light. We do mainly follow the older sister, Rebecca, and she kind of takes it upon herself to figure out what the hell is going on and to try to get rid of this spirit so they can live normal lives again. This film, as well as loads of horror films, actually started out as a short film of the same name. You can actually watch it here on YouTube. It is also absolutely terrifying. There is some really creepy imagery in this film of like this spirit standing in the corner, obviously in the dark, and every time there's a dark moment in this film, you're obviously going to expect she's going to be there or she's going to be there soon, and you just pray that the light's going to come on. There's moments where lights flicker and automatic lights go on and off. That's actually what happens in the opening scene. Somebody is walking through a warehouse and there's automatic lights, and every time they go off you can see her moving get closer to this person, and that absolutely terrified me when I first watched it. I have watched it a few times since. It still does really creep me out. It doesn't scare me as much as when I first watched it, but this film is definitely a valid reason to be scared of the dark. Next is a film that I would consider to be one of my favourite films. There are a few of them on this list, and that is It Follows. It Follows is a cursed film, so it centres around a curse, and this curse is spread to people through intercourse. Whoever has this curse basically has a creature, an entity, shapeshifter being following them and just walking towards them constantly until it will get to them and kill them. So if you have this curse, you need to be on the move at all times. You need to be looking over your shoulder. You just can't really stay in the same place for too long. This entity can take the form of anyone you know. It can take the form of a stranger or a loved one, and I definitely think that is one of the most scariest parts about this film. It just makes you think of those stories of like skinwalkers and somebody you know not actually being themselves anymore. It's just a really, really creepy and really clever concept. So all of that really creeps me out, but the main thing that really got to me in this film is one jump scare in particular. You may already know what I'm talking about. There is one scene that really took me off guard when some people are walking through a door, and then behind them there is a really tall man who's very clearly not human. He just comes out of nowhere walking very fast. It's just a really terrifying scene because it is so unexpected. When the people are opening the door, they're just the normal characters. They're kind of coming in to see if everything's okay and to ensure the main character Jay that she's safe. So you think that things are fine, you think that everything's going to be okay, and then all of a sudden this giant scary man comes behind them. He doesn't even really look like a man, he has really long limbs and everything. So that is one scene that stayed in my mind for far too long, and honestly I still think about it sometimes now. Even when I rewatch It Follows now, for some reason that still makes me jump and it still gets to me. Next we have a found footage horror film, and that is Butterfly Kisses. I've said this a million times, but I do really think that found footage horror films in some cases are really so much more scary because it feels real. It feels like you are just watching either a documentary or some footage that has just been found, obviously, hence the name. Butterfly Kisses follows a filmmaker that finds a bunch of tapes that end up being on a student project, and the student project is about a urban legend called Peeping Tom. The filmmaker looks into these videos and decides to finish off exploring the urban legend himself. This is definitely one that works best watched in the dark and paying full attention if you really want to be creeped out. It's mainly the ending that really gets to me in this film. So with the urban legend of Peeping Tom, he's kind of like a demonic entity kind of thing. I can't exactly remember, but I'm pretty sure that is kind of what he is. So to see Peeping Tom, you stand at the end of a tunnel, set a camera up, and basically he will appear. And the reason why the film is called Butterfly Kisses is because each time you blink he gets closer, and when he basically, before he's gonna get you, you will feel his eyelashes on you, which is when you feel someone's eyelashes, it's called Butterfly Kisses. So this is kind of similar to the Blair Witch Project in that they are kind of going after an urban legend and then it's found footage, but at the end of the film there is some really scary moments where Peeping Tom comes, but this film is just so well done. It's super creepy, and you can actually watch it on YouTube as well, which is a massive bonus. So if you haven't seen this one, then definitely do and watch it to its full potential. Pay attention and watch it in the dark if you really want to be creeped out. The next film on this list is definitely one that is very well known, and that is Hereditary. Hereditary has a really unnerving feel throughout the whole film, but it really is the last sequence that absolutely gets to me, and one scene in particular, maybe a few actually, towards the end. But Hereditary basically follows a family as they go through a really tragic loss, and then something else really bad happens to them as well. It's really tragic, they're all grieving, and on top of that some dark and twisted family secrets start to uncover. I absolutely love this film. I think it has some incredible performances, especially from Toni Collette. She is incredible. She has an incredible monologue in this film. I feel like I don't need to talk about this too much because most people have probably seen Hereditary. It has a lot of disturbing imagery, it has some jump scares that are really really effective, and it has one hell of a final act. I think there's something about horror film jump scares where maybe it's a jump scare that you may not even notice the first time watching. When there's something in the background and you realise it and you just feel your stomach drop, that is definitely my favourite type of jump scare. I find them so clever and absolutely terrifying, and that is exactly what happens in Hereditary. In one of the end scenes when the mum Annie is in the corner in the ceiling, but it's really dark, all the lights are out in their house. You may not even see it on first watch, but oh my god, when you realise her in the corner, that is just absolutely terrifying. I swear after I watched this film for maybe even a good few years, I would check corners, especially when going to the bathroom at night, because that's unlocked a whole new fear in me. There's moments when she's crawling along the ceiling. There's a moment in the loft as well when she's using a piano wire to saw her head off. I feel like that matched with the parts where she's in the corner. Just absolutely terrifying. So this just had to make the list. The next film is Sinister, and in particular the villain in this one, Mr. Boogie. So in Sinister we follow a family that moves into a new home. This actually ends up being a home with a dark past. Unfortunately, there has been a family that have tragically been killed in this house in a mysterious way. The father actually knew this before they moved in, and that's actually one of the reasons why he wanted to move in there, because he is a true crime writer and he was hoping for some inspiration. He ends up finding a box of dark and disturbing home videos in the loft and decides to watch them, and as he watches them he realizes they are all snuff films. They are all films of different families getting murdered. Some of these home videos are really disturbing, but the thing that really creeped me out in this is that in the videotapes you can kind of see either in the background or you'll see a quick glimpse of him, and it's an entity. The kids call him Mr. Boogie. It's one of those things again where sometimes he's in the background of like the video or whatever, and you may not realize it at first, but when you do notice him it makes you jump so much, and he's just absolutely terrifying. There's also a really harsh jump scare at the end. I'm pretty sure this film actually also made a list that was like the scariest horror films ever. People were like hooked up to have their heart rate monitored, and it was shown that this was one of the scariest films, and apparently their heart rate went up the most when the tapes were on. I'm pretty sure that is correct anyway, but that is quite a fun and interesting little fact. I don't think this is the scariest film whatsoever, but it definitely is packed full of jump scares, so not for the faint of heart. The next film on my list is The Ring. So this is another curse film, and there is another curse film on this list, so I'm kind of starting to feel like maybe there's a pattern here, but I don't think it's the curse that really gets to me most. I definitely think that is a really creepy element. Honestly, terrifying. I watched this film far too young, and there is one moment that absolutely sticks in my mind. The Ring is a really popular film, but if you haven't seen it, then The Ring is about a cursed videotape. When you've watched this videotape, it kind of shows loads of disturbing images on the screen. None of them really make much sense. It's kind of like a bunch of different random images. Once the tape is up, you will get a phone call and you will hear a little girl say 7 days, which basically means in 7 days a little girl will climb out of the TV and kill you. In these 7 days, things progressively get worse for the characters that have the curse. The one scene that's stuck in my head ever since the first time I ever saw it is the scene where, so basically when the little girl Samara kills you, she basically just looks at you and you die from fear. Your face kind of goes into like a really mutilated scream and the mouth is like really wide open. There is one moment where you kind of see a flashback of somebody open a cupboard and there's a young girl in there and her face is all messed up, and that jump scare has haunted me for my whole life. I could put that down to being one of the most scariest moments in cinema. Probably one of the most scariest scenes I've ever seen. There is actually some really cool behind the scenes photos of this moment where you can see the kind of dummy head that they made with the actual actress as well next to it. It is really cool. I absolutely love this. Next is another found footage film, and that is Be My Cat, a film for Anne. And actually this probably should have gone on a disturbing list because this one didn't scare me as such, but I did actually have to pause it and come back to it after a little while because it was getting to me. I think it must have been because it was so disturbing. There is one scene in particular, and it is because it seems so real. Like I said earlier with found footage seeming real. This film's director is also the producer. He's also the main character. He done everything in this film. It's really impressive, and it's actually actually shot like a vlog, and he's kind of playing this obsessed stalker who's obsessed with Anne Hathaway, but he also kidnaps women as well along the way, and you just see his kind of descent into madness, the journey he's on to try to get to Anne Hathaway. It is a really bizarre film, but it is actually really good for such a small budget, such a small production. I definitely recommend checking it out. It is free to watch here on YouTube, and the scene that actually got to me the most is one where you actually don't see much, because of course the low budget, there is a murder scene that we don't see but we kind of hear, and we're kind of still behind the camera. Although we can't see exactly what's going on, it really does feel like this is some footage, some documentary or something. It just really doesn't feel right. It feels so unnerving, but that's what makes this film so good. Next is a very popular film that came out in the last few years, and that is Smile. There are so many jump scares in this film, and I really do think they are really effective. I just think this film is so much fun, although it is super creepy. I love the whole concept, although of course it has been done before in so many different curse films. I think I just really love curse films. In Smile, we follow a young woman who ends up getting cursed by this smile curse, and how you actually get cursed is by when you see somebody kill themselves in front of you, they are smiling whilst they do it, and then once you've seen that, you have 7 days until that's going to happen to you, because there is a supernatural presence involved. I actually didn't love this one as much as I do now when I first saw it. I think it is such a fun time. I love this one and the second one as well. I do actually prefer the first one a bit more though. What gets to me the most in this film is very similar to the concept of It Follows, and that being that when you have this curse, you kind of hallucinate, you have delusions, and you may imagine people being there that aren't actually there, and they could be people that you know in your life. You could be having a conversation with somebody you know, with a family member, and then suddenly your phone rings and it's them, and then you're left wondering which one is real. That concept just absolutely terrifies me. I love that in horror films. The last film on this list is Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. I actually watched this film because of Sarah at Possessed by Horror. She always speaks about this film. She also really loves found footage, so I thought I would give it a go. I did not expect it to take that turn and be as scary as it was. I was not expecting that many jump scares. It's a creepy film overall. It follows a group of teenagers who go and check out a haunted asylum. Of course, they are filming themselves. They're actually filming themselves for social media. And then, spoiler alert, obviously it ends up being actually haunted. When I first watched this film, I felt like the first few scenes didn't really draw me in that much, but it definitely is one that is worth sticking with because the payoff is just so good. And it is just actually a really good film overall. I think it's an added bonus that I really love social media horror films, especially when they're found footage and like there's an influencer recording or something, because in this film they are live broadcasting it. But as more and more creepy things happen, of course people want to get out of there, but the views are going up, so they just keep pushing it, and they definitely push their luck a little bit too far. I'm saving my next rewatch for this around Halloween because I think it would be nice to watch something that is genuinely absolutely terrifying. I think this may be the one that is the most terrifying on this list. If I had to rank them on what is the most scariest on this list, then probably this one, because I know if I rewatch it, then it's still going to scare the living daylights out of me. So that's the end of this list. Thank you so much for watching. Please do let me know in the comments what horror films or scenes from horror films have scared you, because I would love to know. And I'll see you again in another one soon.